Salut! Today we are looking a little bit more in detail at information questions in French, les questions d'information, interrogative words, and how they are used to ask questions. So first of all, here are some of the big mots interrogatifs, the big question words. À quelle heure, quand, comment, où, pourquoi. À quelle heure means at what time. À quelle heure vas-tu déjeuner? At what time are you going to eat lunch? Quand means when, a little bit broader of a when question than à quelle heure. Quand allons-nous rencontrer les amis? When are we going to meet up with the friends? Comment means how. Comment est-ce que vous voyagez? En avion? How are you traveling? In a plane? Où means where. Où habitez-vous? Where do you live? Pourquoi means why. Pourquoi est-ce que vous pensez ça? Why do you think that? Combien de, qui, que, quoi, quel. Combien and combien de means how much or how many. Combien de personnes vas-tu inviter? How many people are you going to invite? Qui means who or whom. Qui va aider avec les devoirs? Who is going to help with the homework? Que means what at the beginning of a question. Qu'est-ce que tu manges? What are you eating? Quoi means what at the end of a question or after a preposition. Tu aimes faire quoi? What do you like to do? That's very informal. And quel is an adjective that has four forms, masculine, feminine, singular, and plural, to mean which. Like, quelle glace préfères-tu? Which ice cream do you prefer? First of all, where do we put these question words? The most formal way is to put the question word or phrase at the beginning and then follow with inversion. If inversion is not your thing, you can put the question word or phrase at the beginning and follow with est-ce que. And the least formal but very common way to ask a question is to just throw the question word or phrase at the end. For example, most formal is comment préfères-tu étudier? Comment at the beginning and then inversion. But I could also say comment est-ce que tu préfères étudier? Comment at the beginning plus est-ce que, and then the rest of the question is normal. This is much less formal but very common. I could say tu préfères étudier comment? Tu préfères étudier comment? You like to study how? One little word of warning with the word quoi and que. At the beginning, when you use inversion, you use the word que. Que vas-tu faire aujourd'hui? What are you going to do today? If you add est-ce que, that makes the phrase qu'est-ce que? Qu'est-ce que tu vas faire aujourd'hui? And then if you flip it around and decide to put this que or qu at the end, it actually turns into quoi. Tu vas faire quoi aujourd'hui? So let's look at à quelle heure and quand first. They both mean when, but one is more specific. À quelle heure is more specific, asking about a time of day, and quand is just asking about a day or a date. Here are two examples. À quelle heure est-ce que la fête commence? At what time does the party begin? Il commence à 2 heures, so you're looking for a specific time with à quelle heure. Quand is asking more generally when, like what day or what time of day, not like a time, but more like morning, afternoon, evening. Quand est l'anniversaire de Julie? When is Julie's birthday? C'est le lundi 23 août. So I'm giving a date instead of a specific time. Comment, the word comment means how. It's used in lots of common question phrases like comment allez-vous? Comment ça va? Comment t'appelles-tu? Comment can also be used to ask what somebody is like, and then comment can be used as a polite way to say that you don't understand. Let's look at some examples. Comment allez-vous à l'école? How do you get to school? Like what method of transportation? Comment est-ce que vous étudiez? How do you like to study? So I'm asking how, usually with comment. Comment est ta sœur? In English, we don't say how is your sister like to describe her. We say what is she like. So comment can often be used to ask for a description of somebody or something. And then if somebody asks me something or says something and I don't quite hear it all, I can always say comment. So if somebody said vous allez voyager cette année and I missed it or it was too fast, I could always slow them down with comment which is like, I beg your pardon, excuse me. It's a much more polite way to say what than going quoi. You can say quoi with your friends, but comment is a little bit more formal. The word où means where, like où habites-tu? Où est-ce que vous allez explorer? Pourquoi means why, and then the counterpart to that often used is Parsque, which means because. Pourquoi aimes-tu la musique classique? Parce que c'est relaxant. Pourquoi ne mange-t-il pas? Here's inversion. Oh, both use inversion. Parce qu'il a oublié son déjeuner. Notice that parce que does contract if the next word starts with a vowel. Parce qu'il a oublié. Notice that pourquoi never contracts. We don't want to say pour qu'aime tu. That would be weird. Combien or combien de means how much or how many. When you're talking about how many of a certain item, use de or d apostrophe in front of those items. It's almost like saying how many of instead. Combien de personnes invitez-vous? How many people are you inviting? Combien d'églises y a-t-il à Paris? How many churches are there? So in English, we don't have the word of there. How many of churches? But you could. How many of the churches? C'est combien? How much is it? Like, how much does it cost? Qui means who. Let's talk about qui for a second. If qui is the subject of a sentence, qui is the one doing the action. When you're conjugating your next verb, treat that verb like il or elle, because qui is like he or she here. So if I said qui dessine ce portrait, who's drawing this portrait? Dessine is conjugated in the third person singular, just like il or elle. Qui n'aime pas travailler? Who doesn't like to work? And so you'll conjugate aime just like il or elle. If qui is the object of a sentence, aka something else is doing the action and it's happening to qui, that who or whom, you're going to use est-ce or inversion. Like, qui est-ce que tu regardes? Tu is the subject, and you want to know who are you looking at. Qui est-ce que tu regardes or qui regardes-tu? If you want to, you can also have qui with prepositions like à, which means to, avec, which means with, pour, which means for. Here are some examples. À qui parlez-vous? To whom are you speaking? Avec qui vas-tu au cinéma? With whom are you going to go to the movies? Pour qui est ce livre? For whom is this book? If you don't know the difference between who and whom, who is when it's the subject, like who invited you, and then whom is when it's the object, like you gave that to whom. Just so you know, English is tricky too. Que and quoi, I mentioned before, they both mean what. Que is used at the beginning, and you follow it with est-ce or inversion. It can also be the object of a sentence. Let's look. Qu'est-ce que tu vas manger? What are you going to eat? Que regardez-vous? Here's que as the object because vous is the one that's looking. Que regardez-vous? What are you all looking at? Whereas quoi is used after a preposition and at the end of a question in an informal way. It can also be the object. À quoi pensez-vous? At what are you thinking, aka what are you thinking about? Elle étudie quoi? She's studying what? What does she study? I could always flip these around and I could say vous regardez quoi? Or I could say qu'est-ce qu'elle étudie? It's kind of based on where it's placed in a sentence. Last but not least, the interrogative adjective quel means which one or what one, and it has four forms. It means which or what. The four forms are quel, masculine, singular, quel, masculine, plural, quel, feminine, singular, and quel, feminine, plural. That makes it really easy when you're speaking. You just say quel. When you are writing, you do have to make the forms of quel agree. Like, quel restaurant aimes-tu? Which restaurant do you like? Quelle montre a-t-il? Which watch does he have? Quel cours commence à 10 heures? Which classes start at 10? Quelles filles vont à la cantine? Which girls are going to the cafeteria? Quel always comes in front of something else. It is an adjective, so it also has to agree with the following word. Quel is always linked up with some sort of noun because it's saying which noun. And it's either directly in front of the noun, like you saw previously on the previous slide, or it's followed by the verb être, aka is or are. Then the noun comes later. So here it is directly in front. Quels amis invites-tu? Which friends do you invite? But I could say, quel est ton numéro de téléphone? Which, out of all the phone numbers possible, which is your phone number? Quel est ton numéro de téléphone? Here it is in front again. Quelle heure est-il? What time is it? Or I could say, quels sont tes cours préférés? Which are your favorite classes? Notice that quel can mean what. In English, we would say, what's your phone number? What are your favorite classes? What friends? What time? In French, you're not going to use que or quoi for this idea because it is linked to a specific noun. Which classes are your favorite? Which hour is it? Which, out of all the numbers of phone numbers that exist, which is yours? So, for example, if I was asking, what's the president of France? I am going to use Kell here because I'm saying out of all of the possible presidents, which one? Quel président? So, quel est le président de la France would work. Quoi or que would not work. That's it for right now with question words. Hopefully, that explains a little bit more about how to use these interrogative words to ask for information questions. A bientôt.